Right. So, good evening and welcome to today's session. Nice to have you all here. So, wherever you are from, thanks for taking the time. So, we planned this session for 1.5 hours, but maybe it might be much shorter because I would want to interact more and listen to all your questions rather than sharing the presentation and speaking on for 1 hour. So, hopefully, you don't get bored because this is something that you may have already seen earlier from my LinkedIn posts. So before we go into that, some basic house rules. I hope you are in a safe and comfortable place like your home, office, or somewhere safe, and you are not driving. And So this time the questions will be managed through the Microsoft Q&A feature that is available. So any support or any doubt, you can always check with Puneet on that. And as usual, feedback form will be shared at the end. So about myself, I do not want to say much. Overall, I have around 16 years of experience, been in the OT cybersecurity for around 8 years of the overall number of years. And I kind of transitioned into this role. I'm not from the cybersecurity domain. I was in automation, um, basically as an instrumentation and control engineer, working in oil and gas and the petrochemical industry. And I slowly transitioned uh, around 7-8 years back into cybersecurity. So basically, want to share my experience from my learnings, from my mistakes, so that you can avoid them and maybe you can reach your career goals much faster. Of course, thanks to Puneet for organizing this session and organizing this OT Global OT Cybersecurity Professionals Group. Definitely, it actually helps in terms of knowledge sharing, networking, and learning from each other, which is important. So, thanks, Puneet, again. So, please feel free to join the WhatsApp group. We also have a LinkedIn page and a LinkedIn group as well. These details can be shared, will probably shared by Puneet or maybe posted on LinkedIn. Yeah, so I guess we can go into the session. Um, let me share my okay. Yeah. So yeah, right. So before I talk about certifications and trainings, uh, I hope the crowd is sizable number. I can't see the number of people, Puneet. I hope.
Yeah, until now, 35 people have joined.
Right, right. Yeah, right. So I will just quickly go through this and maybe I'll start taking questions, and probably that might be of uh, maybe more interest.
Ignore all these four guys. Like we 35 people, 40 people here.
Right. I guess someone is not muted. Who is
We
that?
are here to achieve this.
Guys, if you want to ask question, feel free to unmute and ask the question. Otherwise, please mute yourself. Puneet, so can we begin?
Good to go.
All right. Thank you once again. And it's good to have all of you here. If you are here, then it means that you are seriously contemplating about OT cybersecurity trainings or certification. And of course, you might have seen my posts or you might seen my discussion earlier. And I am an instrumentation engineer. I worked in oil and gas as a design engineer, and of course, working along the way, I did various kinds of role from procurement support, project management, and so on. But again, within the industry. So, being in the automation sector, cybersecurity is something that always touches our life. But 10 years back, it was not something very common in the sense. Unless there is any regulation or a mandatory requirement, people were not uh, very much interested to spend money on that. But as you can see, because of the various incidents that happened, uh, the Stuxnet attack, and then the NotPetya attack, then there was one attack on the Saudi Aramco facilities. All those kind of changed. Probably we might have had many other attacks that were not captured. But overall, there's around 20 to 30 well-documented attacks in terms of OT cybersecurity. So when we talk about OT cybersecurity, people usually think this is something very different and very complicated, or they do not know how to approach that. And to be fair, it's not only you, that's the reality. Because at the moment we do have awareness, but when I kind of was introduced to it, there was not much awareness, there was not much information about it available on the internet. So it was difficult, of course, and I learned from my mistakes as well. And this session, the reason for this session is so that you avoid all that, and do not spend so much money and not reach your goals, but uh, try to like use all our few thoughts and maybe uh, reach your career goals faster. Okay, so let's see what they are. I actually posted a document on LinkedIn, and that's how this started. Puneet said, okay, maybe we can do this, it might help a lot, and so on. So I shortlisted these based on the value for money, the coverage of the concepts, the coverage of standards, and some hands-on practicals. And to be honest, uh, it was really interesting that I too had spent some on some of the courses, but not on the others. But I did interact with a few other people who had taken that, and they had given positive feedback, and that's the reason they are here. So this one training, it talks about the fundamentals of OT cybersecurity. This is at a very basic level. This is for someone who's just starting into OT cybersecurity. They could be in IT cybersecurity, or they could be in a non-technical background. Maybe for people who are already in OT role, like an automation engineer or instrumentation engineer or a telecom engineer, this may not be that helpful. But yeah, it does, because the cybersecurity portion is just 20 to 25% of the whole course. 60% of the course is mainly about what exactly it is OT, how it is different from IT, and so on. But it's highly recommended, especially for IT folks. If you want to understand how OT systems work, what are the different types of OT systems, then this is something that you should definitely do. And this is this training about NIST standards. So NIST is a National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's a national body in the USA, and they have this very good cybersecurity standards that is available on public domain. So when I got into this, NIST standards were like my go-to resource for learning about cybersecurity, and it was free, right? It's already available in public domain. And the good thing about this course is you do not have to go through the whole standard. It kind of summarizes the whole concepts in within 8 hours or so in one single training, and it's very economic. You can afford, and it's prepared by sort of someone who is also part of our group, and he has done a lot in terms of sharing his knowledge and experience and so on. So this is something that I would definitely must recommend for you guys to do. Or you can also take up download the document and go through it, but again, it's completely your choice. It will give you an overall view about what are the cybersecurity controls, and how do you do the risk management, and what exactly is difference in depth architecture, and how do you go about the design, and so on. And it also talks about the cybersecurity framework and how you applied them to the facilities or the OT systems. So the next training is about IEC 62443. It mainly talks about the cybersecurity controls that are detailed in the 62443 standard. Of course, IEC 62443 is a comprehensive set of documents. It has multiple standards, multiple documents. There are technical recommendations and so on. So again, these are not available on public domain, so you need to pay them and get it. Or if you are a member of ISA, you can read them for free, but only the standards that are developed by ISA. Because there are some like the system integration 2-4 that is developed by EC, which may not be available in ISA. But again, ISA has a lot of good resources if you want to know about the standards. Maybe if you want, maybe you can drop a message in the group, whoever wants to know more about the resources. Probably myself or Puneet or someone else can reach out to you and share all those resources and sites where you get a very good overview about IC 62443, the various standards, not just a very generic approach. So this training gives you basically you can jumpstart your understanding about IEC 6443. You are new to this OT cybersecurity, or you new to this IEC 6443 standard, then this training is highly recommended, wherein you can get a quick overview of all the key aspects like that I mentioned, like what you will learn. And uh, the good thing about this course is continuously updated now and then. So earlier, I remember when I took this, there was the industrial use case was not there. Yeah, now I think it has been added. I hope Saurabh continues to add more interesting content and also probably create more courses. There are a few couple of courses from him again that you might be interested as well. And this is another thing that I found very interesting, again from Saurabh Saman. It talks about Mitre attack framework. So Mitre is again a non-profit organization based in USA, and they not only focus about OT cybersecurity in general, but they talk about cybersecurity as a whole. And uh, they do a lot of uh, papers, research, and uh, uh, it's basically a volunteer driven effort. They do so much of things, and they have very good resources if you want to learn defense or offense. uh, Actually, this training is about the attack framework, and industrial control system has its own set of attack framework as well. So that is quite interesting. And recently, Mitri also came out with a different framework, but that is not covered because that was just released this month or sometime. So this will, especially when you want to design your OT systems, this will kind of give you a good attack in terms of how an attack can happen, how it can propagate, and so on. And this training also covers the attack techniques and what were the past major cyber attacks that happened, and how do you mitigate these things using the attack framework. The techniques are briefly explained and so on. And of course, you can always ask a question, and these courses are again present in the Udemy. So when we talk about OT cybersecurity, at the moment we are talking about theoretical concepts and so on. But again, practical courses for all its challenges, uh, there were limited number of free trainings or low cost trainings that is available. I don't think there are free trainings available, but you can of course run a Kali Linux, and you can probably load up the open source softwares and maybe do that. But I'll speak more on that later. But there's one good training recently by Marcel. He's based in Germany, and of recently he's been more active in doing video log.
We lost your voice.
You are in mute, John.
We cannot hear you.
I hope it should be okay now.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, great. Right. So as I was saying, this training from Marcel is completely virtualized. You can probably download all the tools, applications that is part of this training program, and you can run it yourself in your laptop. Uh, it is not exactly a cyber range that kind of simulates DCS or SCADA, but of course you have this PLC environment, virtualized environment where you can do all the basic stuff, right? So this is really good, especially for people who are just joining or coming into the OT cybersecurity, or someone who has already been there for a while but doesn't have an offensive experience, hands-on experience. I think this is a must-attend training that one can do. One second, I'm just. Oops, sorry. I think I need to restart. Yeah. Right. So yeah. And so again, this is basically practical pen testing. So this is one of the very few courses that are available at an affordable price when we talk about industrial control system pen testing. So the next training by Saurabh, so again, it talks about an SOC implementation for an OT environment. So this again may not be relevant to all. Someone who's working in the with the cloud applications, probably it might be of help to them, or someone who wants to understand how OT environment works in a SOC, or how it can be interfaced with the CM, and how it can be virtualized on the cloud. I think this is something that will give you some hands-on exposure to learn the various aspects, right? So this is a really good one, and I would recommend this as well. So when we talk about any cybersecurity, offense and defense is something that the major concepts, right? Like, but people specialize in either aspect. So the ones that you see on the screen, it's basically like offense and defense, and that's quite interesting, right? It'll give you an edge when you go for an interview. You might have an expertise in something else, but you will have that extra bit of knowledge that probably can gain you the job, or maybe get you the promotion, or the recognition that probably you deserve. There are some other trainings when we talk about OT systems, but these has been there for a while and they have not been updated. But do check them out. Maybe I can share the links later on. Probably I'll share it quickly. You can maybe check it if you have not already. I would definitely recommend you to read through the document in detail maybe sometime, and you can always of course feel free to reach out to me, and or anyone else in the group would probably can reply to you. So we were talking about low cost training, but there are other OT trainings also that might be of interest to you. See, at the earlier part, I was sharing about OT cybersecurity, right? Defense and offense and so on. This is not exactly OT cybersecurity, but equally informative in terms of your learning, because uh, if you want to do well in OT cybersecurity, you need to know what OT is, right? So OT is a very generic and a general term. It encompasses SCADA, DCS, PLC, IEDs, RTUs, and so on. There are numerous devices. So, and importantly, when you talk about an OT environment, the industrial data communications, industrial networking, that is equally important, right? Because all these OT systems have their own protocol. Like, for example, the one that you're currently seeing, TNP3 is predominantly used in the energy sector, especially in the US, and not across the world. Most of the locations have, especially Europe and other places, they have started to use IEC 61850 for that. But yeah, there are places where they still use DNP3 as a communication protocol apart from the US. So this training will actually teach you all the basic stuff, how the protocol is designed, how it works, and so on. And you also can know about the standards in terms of how it is implemented, and uh, the formats and so on. Because by right, when you are doing the system commissioning or the design or troubleshooting, you need to know how the communication happens, right? Like how the data basically transmits in this protocol, and how it is received, and interface translated, and so on, right? There are various components, network devices, and so on. So there's a lot of communication and to and fro that happens. So it is very important. Like this is industry specific again, may or may not be relevant to all, but uh, when we talk about the communication protocol, especially the energy sector, which again is a critical infrastructure, this is something very important. So basically, Emil has a lot of interesting trainings, and all these are very low cost trainings. And I've learned a lot from Emil, and I'm sure you also can learn a lot. And his profile again is interesting. He didn't start teaching by himself, but uh, so if you read out his story, so that again will be very inspiring as well. And he has done a commendable job in terms of things, right? So IEC 61850 is has been there for almost a decade or more, basically, maybe more than that. And uh, again, this is going to be the default. It's already, substation is already uses that, but it may be for uh, uh, this within the energy sector. Probably this is getting adopted in all the countries, so this is something that it's good to know. And there are a lot of security concerns here. So this in itself is not secure. There are other ways to secure that. And there was a recently, there's another standard called IEC 62351, which basically talks about security for this communication protocols that use 61850. So another important aspect when we talk about OT systems is PLC. So PLC, especially for small to medium size or even the big facilities, PLC is something that is used. It's basically ubiquitous, right? And most of the people here might have heard about Shodan. So Shodan is a search engine where you can see what devices are connected, and you may not imagine, but there's so much of connected devices that it's basically beyond the dreams, right? Like we may not even think about that. So that is happening because of the people are not aware in terms of how to secure their devices, and if they are internet facing, what are the steps that need to be taken, and the best practice, and so on. So hopefully that gets sorted. But yes, that is something, knowing about PLC actually helps a lot. Again, SCADA is something that everyone who are in the OT side knows about, because SCADA, like it's basically like especially when you have distributed facilities across the region, and you have the SCADA system wherein you get the data through RTUs and over long distances, right? And they are displayed on screen and for monitoring and control purposes. So this basic training actually gives you uh, introductory level of knowledge, just to understand how the SCADA systems work and so on. So of course, this is about the trainings in terms of the OT cybersecurity and the OT trainings. Maybe I'll share a bit about IC 6443. I think that that is something that most of the people are basically interested. So let me go to that. So I'm using this dual monitor, so I'm having a bit of issue. All right. So coming to IEC 6443. So this standard has kind of taken the world by storm. Why? What happened and why it is becoming so popular? Yeah, that's a good question actually. The reason being, cybersecurity, as we know, has already been there for a while, but predominantly for the IT systems. And when we talk about OT cybersecurity, um they were not exactly standards, but each country has its own guidelines and regulatory requirements. US had NERC for the energy sector. Then Germany had their own information security standards. They had a separate ministry where they had come up with their guidelines. Then UK had CPNI and so on. So universally there was always a lot of confusion, right? And when we talk about products, OEMs, the hardware, the confusion only kind of increases. So what IEC 6443 or was aimed to achieve was to try to basically harmonize all that, so that whether you implement the cybersecurity in India, the US, or Europe, uh, everybody does the same. And IEC 6443 originally started from ISA 99 of International Society of Automation. Many of you or most of you might be knowing about that. And ISA 1919 was accredited by the National Accreditation Board in the USA. Then IEC formally adopted this ISA 99 at IEC 6443. And they have a separate working group called Working Group 65, where they do the this 6443 related development work. So let's go into the further trainings, and then maybe we can discuss more specifically about 6443 if required later on. So this presentation basically, this session was mainly for letting you know what are the trainings available, what are the certification available, because there's a lot of confusion, right? There's a lot of hype also, unfortunately. There are a lot of false promises also. And this is something that, especially when you're paying your hard-earned money to do this training or certification, you need to know whether you are getting your money is worth, right? You're spending money basically to get a return on investment. The return is basically the knowledge, and you using the knowledge and implementing in your organization or workplace and so on, right? So let's go into the uh, presentation. So you might have heard about trainings, certificates, personal certification. So what exactly is the difference? So this is not uh, like I wouldn't say this is the exact definition. Different people, different companies, different countries has they may have their own definition, but this is a broad uh, definition in terms of what it means, right? Basically, training course is something that you pay, you get some knowledge, people share their experience. It could be from a book or it could be from a standard. Basically, it's a simple training, right? There may or may not be an exam, right? And once you have done the training, you might get a certificate. So yeah, so when we talk about certificate, the certificate could be issued by anyone basically. So depending upon the institution or the organization and their credibility, the weightage of the certificate uh, matters. And when we talk about certificate, uh, there are certain accreditations. I don't have them here, but they are based on certain ISO standards, where the institution or organization is empowered to conduct a training and provide a certificate. And for example, PMP certificate by the PMI Project Management Institute is one thing. Just to give a quick example, of course there are many other certificates as well. So when we talk about certification, this gets more interesting. This is basically accrediting yourself or accrediting as an individual that you are competent in certain topic or certain domain, and this is what personal certification is all about. And in and more specifically about IE 643, I'll get to that while we go into the further slides. But yeah, this is what actually personal certification or certification means. But people kind of interchangeably use certificate and certification again.
John, please
So
share your screen. It is not visible.
it's not visible, is it?
Yeah.
Oops. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I hope it is right. Yeah,
Thank you.
great. So, so this Exida has a very good video explaining what exactly is a certification and certificate and so on. Maybe you should take a look at that. Right. So let's move on to see what are the different certifications available. And once that is done, we'll talk about trainings. So these are some of the institutes and organizations that provide certifications, uh, especially in the top uh, part. The below that you see, basically they only provide trainings. I just wanted all the logos to be in one single slide so that I don't keep showing them again and again, right? So let's go into the slide. So the first the certificate program is from ISA. ISA is International Society of Automation. Many people might have heard. So and here when we talk about this certificate program, it's basically 4 certificates, and you have to complete the first certificate or the cybersecurity fundamental specialist to do the others. And you cannot directly write the exam. Generally when we talk about certification, uh, people can just register, apply, and write the exam and qualify, right? So in this case, that doesn't work like that. You need to attend the training, complete the training, then you need to book the time and date, and you can either visit means facility to take the training, or you can do it at your convenience of your home in a proctored test, online proctored test. It's quite strict, and they're very thorough about it. And that each exam is individually proctored. So rest assured, it's quite valid. And so the challenge here is it's very expensive. Each training probably costs around $2,000, and maybe if you're an ISA member, maybe $400 less. So that is a challenge. So if somebody is sponsoring you within the organization, maybe it kind of helps. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. This is my personal opinion, right? And but again, it's a matter of individual's choice, right? So I have done just the first one, but it's always good to do the others as well. No harm in it. But if you can get your organization to sponsor that, well and good. And probably if you're a member of ISA Bangalore, they have some special pricing, and probably they can help you out as well. So I'm not going to the detailed specifics of each certificate and what it covers. Maybe that can be discussed in the group, or maybe you can, some anyone if have they have some doubts or clarification, they can always feel free to reach out to me. So yeah, so once you do all the 4 certificates, you are considered an expert. And certificate 1 is mandatory, like I mentioned. So once you do the certificate, you can do the other certificates in any order. But if you do all the 4, you will be given the credential as an expert, right? So we talked about ISA having their own certification program. So this one by Exida is a very interesting one, and I would personally suggest people, uh, if you are really serious, want to get yourself certified, to explore this as well, right? And they have two sets of certification. One is called CACE and CACS. CAC is for the more experienced people, like more than 10 years. CACS is for like people with around 2 years of experience. So uh, this can be attempted without doing the training, but they also have a separate set of training, which I'll talk about in the upcoming slides. But you just need to apply, give some you need to have 4 referees, then you need to provide a case study, then you have to pay around $800 as exam fees, and write the exam, pass the exam. Then they'll vet the application. There are certain criteria you need to meet, right, depending upon CAC or CACS. So when we talk about certification, especially for 6243 by Exida, it gets bit interesting. The reason being, these are the difference between Exida, CAC, and CACS. I'd shared the links. Maybe you can download them and take a look. I wouldn't go more detail into it. Uh, So, there's one thing that I didn't mention here in this presentation is that, see, IEC 643 is very comprehensive. There's so many documents and so many things to cover, right? ISA does that in their own way. Right or wrong, it's up to the individual. I would not judge that. But Exida does that very smartly, right? They what they do is, they have three sets of specialization. One is called automation, one is called system integration, and one is called product development. So when you apply for CACS or CAC, you can select any one and specialize in that. And you might ask, what is the difference, right? I'll come to that later, like when I talk about the trainings. But very briefly put, uh, it's all based on the standards that we are talking about, because IA 60443 series of documents, the standards has a specific standard for system integration, then for automation, cybersecurity, how you develop the cybersecurity management system, patch management, and then for the product development, right? uh, this doesn't cover that slide because I didn't think that is relevant here, because we are just talking about certification. So um, so that is a very good thing about here. So this is not very broad based like ISA. This is very specific, and trust me, I'm actually preparing for that, and hopefully by end of the year I would give my exam. And uh, this is not like a very straightforward multiple choice questions. The questions are a bit difficult, and you need to basically apply. It's not hard in terms of CISSP kind of certification or the preparation that you need, but still you need to be thorough in terms of the standards and how you apply it, with respect to the facility in a real time environment. So if you have the relevant experience, probably this might be easier to give it. If not, then you can take their trainings which they have. Once you have done the trainings, you can properly prepare in terms, because that is just a training, and this is a certification, personal certification. So more on that later. So this is highly recommended when we talk about, and these people are known globally. The reason, because Exida, of course, ISA has their own division called ISA Secure, which certifies and assesses the product or solution, and so on. But Exida also is accredited to ISA Secure, and they have their own accreditation as well. And believe me, Honeywell, Emerson, and almost all leading OEMs and system integrators certify their process methodology and products through Exida. Probably if you can go to the Exida website, probably you'll have much more information. So so that was all about Exida certification. So GIAC. So GIAC is called I don't recollect. It's Global Information Advisory Council and so on. These guys have been in the industry for 20 years. It started with information security, but they have become so popular worldwide, and their certifications are accepted, and they are well known, to be honest. And when we talk about OT, they have around four certificates. GICSP is the introductory level certification about the OT cybersecurity. And the good thing about this is you can directly attend by paying the exam fees and applying for it. But if OT is something new to you, then it might be a bit tough to pass the exams the first attempt. So they have a very expensive training provided by their associate SANS, which you all might have heard. They do a lot of trainings and white papers on cybersecurity, especially OT cybersecurity, and in terms of cybersecurity. And probably you can take a look. So JSPSP is something at a very starting level, but it gives you a very good knowledge of the overall the what is needed in terms of as a OT cybersecurity engineer, in order to how you secure the environment and so on. And JAC also has some specialized certification for, like for example, JAC response and industrial defense. This is more what blue team people do, right? Defend and secure their facilities and so on. So this again is a bit specialized. If it is relevant to you, I would definitely suggest you do this. And they have this another certification called GICIP. So uh, this is more attuned to the North American industry, especially because there they have the energy sector has their own reliability standard, which also is relevant for cybersecurity as well, because system needs to be operating safely, securely, and should be also available, right? So NERC SIP is that what is followed in the US, and GCP basically talks about that in terms of how you implement NERC SIP at the in the asset owner side. All the practical concepts are very well explained. So if you work closely in the North American market, especially in the US, then this is something recommended to you, especially on the electrical or the energy sector, and you do a lot of US projects. GCIP is highly recommended. Again, like I said, all their JAC trainings can directly be attempted, but again, if you're from the industry, that shouldn't be a problem, but if you're not, that might be a challenge. So they have this fourth certification, which I didn't mention here, because I don't think that is a certification. It's more like a training, but it's pen testing related for the industrial control system. But that is at a very advanced level. So maybe that's the reason I didn't cover here. So yeah. So coming to TUV Rainland. So TUV Rainland is a is someone who does the inspection, assesses, and assessment, and also certification themselves, right? Basically they are an accredited body. They follow the certain ISO standards and do that. So they have this trainings, or four sets of training. When we talk about OT cybersecurity, you do the fundamental course for 2 days, write the exam, then you do either product development or security risk assessment, and you are called as a CISSP specialist, TUV Rainland. So when we talk about TUV Rainland, so TUV Rainland is quite famous for their functional safety courses. People in the process industry might have already heard about them. So functional safety is a very interesting thing, especially if you're an OT cybersecurity. Functional safety is also very important to you all folks, because the life cycle basically mimics each other, and functional safety has been there for a while. Cybersecurity is quite recent, and OT cybersecurity can learn a lot when we learn from the functional safety. And it is not related to the discussion that we're doing, but when we talk about OT cybersecurity, um, this functional safety, OT cybersecurity, and alarm management. This is something called integrated life cycle management, and for any facility, especially a process industry. So this is something very interesting, because, for example, in a facility, if an operator is burdened with multiple alarms and is not able to take a decision and do the remediation, it's still a failure, right? uh, there is again integrity issues, safety issues, availability issues, and so on. So that's the reason I thought I'll bring this. And TUV, along with Exida, along with folks from ISA, were pioneers when we talk about functional safety. So that's a thing. And unlike Exida or GIAC, here you need to attend the training, write the exam. You cannot directly take the exam. So that's about TUV Rhineland cybersecurity thing. And this is I mentioned training program, but basically this is a personal certification as well. So UL solutions again. UL is they're predominantly in the US, but of lately they have been active across the world. So they have their own certification as well. And like Exida, they have specialized training and certification for product development and so on. So this is something that you can take a look. I forgot to mention, TV Rainline, of course, also has automotive cybersecurity related. This is a separate standard in itself, but you need to take the fundamentals and you need to take this to become a specialist, right? And uh, UL Solutions also has an automotive related program, but that is mainly for people from the automotive background. So they have this two sets of thing, right? Like once you do that, you become a CCSP, certified cybersecurity professional, UL certified professional. So this may be of some interest to you as well, but again, you need to take the training and write the exam. So that's about UL. Certex, they are based in Switzerland, and they are not much known about like out of Europe, but they have their own training and certification methodology that's a bit unique. But again, it kind of mimics what Exida and ISA is basically doing, but how they go about it, it's a bit different. So you can be a red belt, you can be a black belt, or you can be a master. But again, the differentiation is based on the number of experience you have and the type of exam you take, right? Like how we have Exida CAC and CECS. But again, here you need to take the training, then write the exam for you to be certified. um right, so I think this would be the last accredited training. Earlier it was provided by a different body, IACRB, but I don't think they exist now. So it is taken over by Infosec Institute. So this certified SCADA security architect, it's not very comprehensive or in depth like you would want to be, but it does give a 360-degree view of the overall SCADA. And they do not go into too much details of PLC, DCS, or other components. They mainly cover SCADA and so on. And training is not mandatory. You can directly take the exam. Again, it costs around $600, $700. But again, unlike all the other certifications, this is not very comprehensive, right? But it depends upon you and your interests and so on. So far we have been talking about certifications and doing either giving the exam and getting the certification, or attending the training and getting the certification. So right now we are going to talk about some OT ICS cybersecurity trainings. The reason why this trainings was not included in the earlier presentation that I showed was those were trainings that were affordable. These are not that affordable. These are very expensive, and you will see why. Probably because they are a big brand, and various factors, right? The training methodology and so on. Yeah. So I talked a lot about Exida certification, personal certification, right? This certificate program, based on their own accreditation they provide, it's called IC 643 Cybersecurity Practitioner, or CSP. So, like I was saying earlier, they also have this different categories, and you can take this automation cybersecurity, or software development, or integration cybersecurity, and so on. And this kind of helps you prepare for the CAC CCS, uh, or you just take these trainings, get a certificate called CSP. Like for getting a certificate called CSP Cybersecurity Practitioner, you need to attend the exam, and like once you do the training, then once you're good, you can book a slot and you can write a separate exam for CSP. So so this is just a certificate provided by them. This is not a certification in itself, but this helps you to prepare for the CAC or CACS, right? So this one is quite interesting. This is this organization is called ICSCSI. It's by Joel Langle. Joel Langle is quite well known in the industry. This institute is by him, and he has all these trainings, right? So again, these are a bit expensive, like around $4,000 $5,000, and the one ethical hacking for industrial control system is like it simulates a real SCADA DCS environment, like a cyber range. So that probably you can only attend live on premises. So this is something that if you're really interested, uh, he has written co-authored a book with I don't remember his name right off the bat, but I would strongly suggest for someone who is getting into cybersecurity, especially OT, to read this book by Joel Langle, right? And these are some of the trainings that he provides, and it's quite interesting. But from what I understand, from next year, I think he's going to stop this online trainings, and he's going to focus only on in-person trainings. That's what I understand. So these are the trainings that like I think for everyone, this fundamentals of industrial and facilitated system cybersecurity would be the most interesting, followed by this ethical hacking one. Right. So we were talking about GIAC certifications, right? So GIAC has this lot of trainings, and each training is linked to a specific certification. For example, the ICS 410 ICS SCADA Security Essential is linked to GICSP certification, and visibility detection response is related to grid. I think grid, I guess. Yeah. So I, yeah, sorry. So
Even
these, yeah. So I think we will finish in 5 to 5 minutes maximum, and we'll come back to questions. So these SANS trainings are like very expensive, like $8,000 and so on. So um, it doesn't really make sense. So when I compiled this list, I thought, okay, let's make another list where people find really affordable trainings and so on. So that was how it happened. But SANS is very good in terms of their training methodology, and they are more hands-on in terms of how they approach. But again, it's based on what you need and what you want to do. What is the outcome? What is the ROI that you have in mind, and how it help in your career? You need to figure all that out, and select. So they have this various trainings that will be interesting. And this training by Abhisam. So I haven't shared more details in this slide, but it's really comprehensive. You should take a look. If you have already downloaded this document, just click on it. It's hyperlink. Take a look. So the standard costs around $500. Advanced costs around 750 or dollars. So 700 includes all this advanced module of 2-4 and supply chain security. Supply chain security is basically a hot topic nowadays. So once you take the exam, they provide a certification called CICSP, sorry, and it is provided by Abhisam. At the moment, they are not accredited, but I think their content is copyrighted in the US, and they are basically a training and training solutions provider internationally. So they come with a lot of credibility. They are from the industry, so it is highly recommended. This is the most out of all the expensive trainings. This is something that probably I can maybe recommend personally. You can take a look and see this training by TUV SUD. This is another organization. TV has multiple organization with the same branding or same similar sounding name, but this is a separate organization and has no relation to TV Rhineland. They provide a very basic 2-day training, and it's not like exactly a certification, but once the training is done, you get a certificate. So I think it's good for starters. And this training called AECS by Justin Seal. So he is one of the trainers for SANS and this ICS 410, right? So he has his own personal training. Uh, it's online, but you can maybe reach out. They have their own like Kali Linux. They have their own control things platform, wherein once you register for this training, they also send out some hardware wherein you can physically try to work with them and try to break it and so on. So it's a very interesting set of training that includes the cybersecurity concepts in terms of defense and offense and so on. And last but not least, there is a cybersecurity course on OT systems by EC Council. Uh, I am not sure I've heard people doing this, but again, if this speaks to you, maybe you should explore that. Because this existed, I thought maybe I'll cover it. The EC Council themselves doesn't take the training; they have their own associates doing that. Same for TV Rhineland as well. Yeah, I think this training, basic, intermediate, and advanced, is provided by someone from Indonesia. The company name is Petco, and I know this person individually. I have interacted with him earlier, long back. So he worked for a while in ExxonMobil. Then he went on to do his own startup and consulting, and he has come up with this interesting set of trainings. And you see, this advanced training has also some basic Lego kind of test bed, right? Like a bit hands-on and so on. But again, these are very expensive. Here in Indonesia, if it makes sense, maybe you can attend. But as an international person, maybe traveling and attending, spending in dollars may not make sense. But again, this is a list of trainings available globally. So I just try to capture that. There might be other trainings that I might have missed, but to my knowledge, uh, these are the trainings that I have come across, and from this I have done a few. And like I said, I'm also preparing for my CACE. Hopefully, I can probably, once I'm done with it, maybe I can coach you guys and you just give the exam, and that would make a lot of economical sense for you. Yeah, so that's about certifications and the expensive OT cybersecurity trainings. I'm sorry if I was very fast and very brief because I thought I just wanted to quickly run through and wanted to interact more, sharing from my experience. So I just breezed through as much as possible. So look forward to your questions. If there's something that I can clear your doubts on, maybe I think I'd be happy to do that.
John, this was a very wonderful session, and actually it was enlightening session for we all, because most of the people are looking for the OT security path to the OT security, but they are not able to discover it. They are not aware which course they should go for. So I am also receiving the certain inquiries. So it was a very great kickstart for the people who are looking into to getting into the OT security. So it was, I think, whether we can have a detailed session if required. Let's say for each certification, we can also go ahead and we can tell them. So we can take the question and answers.
Yeah, sure.
I will share my screen. Just hold on.
Yeah, sure.
Friends, this is Daniel. Can I add something to the interesting session of John?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Yes, I think that the training programs which were presented are indeed very good, and they are focusing on understanding the technology. The technology and some of the SaaS training, you must be an expert in order to participate there. Not just come to learn, you already must be an expert. On the other hand, I do believe that the most important training is what I'm conducting over ISACA and other media is to upgrade the intelligent understanding of the participants. What is right, what you can do, what you cannot do, when you can do penetration testing, when you cannot do penetration testing, when you can do active scanning, when you cannot do active scanning, when we do authentication, when we do encryption, when we put a data diode, when we put a DMZ. I believe this is what is important, and these are the training that I'm sure all of you can afford if we combine a nice group. It may be a 16-hour training, just 4 meetings of 4 hours, or any other module program that you, and this is what I believe. I call it educating and affordable training. That's what I believe is highly important.
Yes, Daniel, I think this is a very good suggestion from you. I have been following Daniel for a while. I have learned a lot from his papers, and so when I was transitioning, I used to follow. Whenever Daniel speaks, I used to listen to him. That's how I learned a lot. So I think this is a good suggestion, right? Like we are more than 200 people in the group. At least if 50 of us come together, or maybe 30 or 40 come together, we can learn from Daniel's 30 years of experience. And he's been a global speaker in multiple conferences and programs internationally in Israel, uh, the Middle East, and Singapore. So I think we all can learn a lot from him. And if there is a possibility, then probably I would also would like to interact and maybe get his knowledge. Maybe we can, Puneet. Maybe you can support in that, and maybe try to get some interest, and let's see
Def-
how we can do that in the future.
Definitely, this is what is our target in future. So
Yeah.
we have just going step by step, and mostly we should be able to achieve that. Yeah.
Right.
Aslam wants to ask something.
Right. So, Aslam, I have recently completed my certification. Looking to transfer. I have around 10 years of OT. What would you suggest? Please answer. Yeah. So, see, Aslam, It's a good thing that you already been in the OT, so you know how things work, right, in the facility. And I'm not sure if you're in the asset owner side, in the maintenance operation, or in the design side, right? Like OT is a very generic term. Like for example, I was in the design, I was in the engineering design. Um, where we prepared the documentation, and of course we did specification and so on. So I was not bit more hands on. So when we talk about getting into OT cybersecurity, uh, the important thing is like doing all these expensive trainings or certification won't get you across. Knowing the basics, like Daniel always mentioned, get your fundamentals straight, get your basics straight. So that is the best way. Like I would strongly suggest learning and understanding networking security. What is system administration all about? And there are some very basic certifications that I didn't cover here in this, because this was purely about OT cybersecurity. But this CompTIA, of course, it is targeted for I think unmuted again. So this CompTIA network plus certification, right? I think it will give you a head start, right? So you already done this 62443 certification. It talks about 62443. It's not very hands-on, or it doesn't go in depth in terms of what cybersecurity is all about. You just know how cybersecurity is applied through the IEC 62443. I also did the same mistake. Like okay, that's a long story, but cybersecurity started from IT, so we should know what are the IT security concepts, and later on, don't directly apply, but we need to understand how it should be applied in the OT environment. There are fundamental differences. So for that, you need to know the fundamental, what are the security concepts when we talk about networking, or in terms of system administration. How do you install and manage active directory? How do you apply the group policies and so on? So these are the basic aspects. So once you know that, once you're a bit hands-on familiar, then you do this OT cybersecurity trainings like I mentioned about 62443 or other stuff, then probably it can help you getting the job that you wanted, right? So that is how you need to plan yourself and see where you're working, where do you want to go. You want to go to the asset owner side, or you want to go consulting, or you want to work for an OEM or a system integrator. So these are the questions that you need to ask yourself and think about it. And of course, of recently, there are a lot of OT cybersecurity vendors, right? uh, 5 years back, 10 years back, they were a very small niche, very specialized, like Clarity, Nozomi, and so on. Fortinet. Fortinet basically started for industrial hardware products for the so on. And of course, they have a whole range now. But these OEMs, these solution providers also have their own trainings, and Fortinet has some good set of trainings as well. So I would highly recommend you do that. Do all the free trainings that is relevant to you. Not all means as in do everything, but whichever is relevant to you. So that will kind of help you to course correct and see what works, what doesn't work, what you like and what you don't like. Like as I mentioned, IEC 643 is like how do you design the architecture and so on. So that is more like theoretical concepts and so on. So there is whole lot more than that we need to actually learn or understand before we start trying. So that is something that you need to take care.
Mr. John, actually, the thing is, I have done this CCNA also.
Oh,
CCNA,
nice.
I have done Fortinet training also. If
Great,
you have
great,
told,
great, great.
Udemy, Mr. Saurabh Suman courses I have done.
Great.
Now
I
the
think
thing
I
is,
think
now the thing is,
yes.
I'm looking for a job opportunity, so I'm facing difficulty now. Like I do have built up a network, but can you suggest me something on that?
Okay, so see, the challenge here is not having hands-on experience as a cybersecurity role, right? So this is something that I also struggled when I was, even though I was from the OT industry, even though I worked along with networking engineers. That challenge was always there. There is no straightforward answer. What I would suggest is, you're already doing the right thing. You have done the certification, you have done the free courses that are available, and so on. The next, what I would suggest is, based on job requirement, try to see where your strength lies, right? And each job requirement, each company has their own set of requirements and how they practice. For example, Siemens and ABB, um, the, if you see the job description, both will have a cybersecurity engineer or OT cybersecurity engineer. But when you go to the role responsibilities, that's where the difference lies. And this is where that probably you need to see what type of skills they're asking. And see, CCNA is like, it's a very entry level thing in terms of how the networking is managed, what are the switches, routers, and so on, right? So what I would additionally suggest is, uh, for you to um, learn about networking security, networking design, because this is the challenge that we faced as a company. We wanted to, we thought, okay, we are not able to get cybersecurity engineers. Let's get the people who are from the IT background. Let's people who have done the networking design, and let's teach them cybersecurity, right? So this reviewing the network architecture, designing, like what are the hardware devices that come on the level 0, level 1, level 2. So that is something that probably you can look at, because designing the network, making it secure, I think probably that will be a way to go. Maybe that can probably give you the competitive edge that you're looking for. And nothing as good as learning on the job, but the trying the initial thing is a bit difficult. Our path is unique. I cannot give you a specific solution to your problem, but maybe we can discuss in private and see how you can sort it out.
John, I would just like to add one thing to.
Yeah, please go ahead,
Yeah.
Puneet.
Aslam, the challenge is that that any company, if you are really want to work upon in the OT cybersecurity side, the most important aspect is that whether you understand the OT. Okay, if you understand the OT well, and as the John said that your basic concept regarding the networking, computing, those things should be clear. If that is clear, then definitely if you are getting selected for any interview, so they will just see that how much practical knowledge you have. Okay. Gone are the days when you can show your certifications and then you can get the job. Now that these people are looking for the people who can really make a difference from the day one. That is the difference with the OT security. So if you have OT knowledge, okay, let's say if you are working in oil and gas, or if you are working in any other facility, then definitely it will make a difference. Second thing, what you can do, you can write it to us. Okay, we can help you to mentor how you can get into the OT security domain. So here, that objective of this forum, that we are also trying to give some mentorship so that we can guide people if they're not getting into the OT security domain. So we can identify what are the I'll say the area of improvements, or what are the gaps. That's why even if you are having certain knowledge, you are even having some skill set, but you're not getting into. Just this helps.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. That makes a lot of difference to me.
Yeah, so you can write back to us on this Teams meeting invite, or you can just give your information in the feedback form. We will get back to you.
Okay, sure, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Vikalp has raised the hand. So Vikalp, what is your query?
Yeah, John. I have I want to know just basic about this CISSP. I'm not sure if it is relevant to this session, but I have heard somewhere, and I thought if you
yeah,
can give some.
great question. Nice of you to highlight it here. This is something, right? Like when I was around, I was having around 10 years of experience, and I was uh, maybe a little bit earlier, when I was exploring about cybersecurity, I had come across CISSP. I had overall 8 years experience at the time, and none of the security side of experience. So when I was doing what I need to do to get into cybersecurity, I made a I mean, I know about, I did come across the CISP certification, right? But I made a mistake that it is not relevant to me. That is really not true. Actually, CISP is really very useful.
क्या आपको
Even if you
जॉब का क्या है रे वही बोला हूँ उसको.
even if you don't do the certification, the amount of fundamental knowledge that you get while reading for the CISP material, right? It will basically make you strong in the fundamentals, and this will go a long way. Of course, it is the CISP is more of a managerial kind of thing, management kind of certification. If you are a technical engineer, right, working engineer, it may not be relevant, the certification, because your mindset will be different. You will be thinking about solving the problem, but CISP gives you the fundamental knowledge, and this is what I'm trying to say, right? Like when I was speaking for Salam, learn the basics of cybersecurity. So even if you don't do the CISP certification immediately, learning or preparing for CISP will definitely improve your thought process and knowledge that you wouldn't have otherwise known. Because for a IT professional or IT cybersecurity professional, they may already been working hands-on. So that is the reason IT cybersecurity folks get into OT cybersecurity much easily. They may not know about OT, but the people who are hiring them, or in general, they see about, okay, the concepts. Okay, that is a different debate or different problem altogether, that we will all have probably comments. But what I strongly suggest is, if you are around 15 years of experience or more, and you want to break into cybersecurity, be it OT or IT, see, after a certain age, it doesn't really matter which domain you are in. Because in management, it's all about managing the people below you, managing the facility, managing the organization, and so on. There's a lot of many things, and maybe you can also become a CISO, right? And OT cybersecurity people also are becoming CISO nowadays. There are a lot of successful people in that. So doing a CISP will actually get you there, right? And uh, when you talk about hands-on OT cybersecurity, it's more relevant to people who are 2 years, 5 years, or 8 or 10 years experience, or who do service or commissioning and so on, or provide the cybersecurity services at the client location. But if you are thinking about a manager role in the OT cybersecurity, having a CIS certification is a huge advantage, because hiring managers across the world, they may not be aware about IEC 643 or EXIDA, but they'll be knowing about CISP, and it can get clear 90% of your chances getting the job that they want. Because clearing CISP is not easy. It's not a cakewalk. If you are not from the cybersecurity background, you need to probably prepare for 5 or 6 months. Very like, you should have a good habit in terms of discipline of sticking to your study schedule, because it consists of 8 domains. I'm not going to speak more on that in detail. Maybe you can have a separate session, but this is a very interesting topic. Even OT cybersecurity professionals should do CISP, because that will help their career, that will improve their knowledge, it will structure the concepts, and make it more organized. Because even me, for example, there are a lot of gaps I always see, right? Like, because there's so much, it's a huge field, cybersecurity. Even I am actually started preparing just last month. Maybe by end of the year, I plan to give the exam, like, because with work, it's not realistic to do within 3 months. So to answer your question, yes, CISP is something highly recommended.
And just to add, before CISP, you should go for CompTIA Network Plus, and then you should go for CompTIA Security Plus. If you are able to crack both of them, then definitely your 50% readiness will be there for the CISSP.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So
John, can we take these people that who has raised their hand, or we should take Q&A?
I think I'll just quickly, there are some messages in the chat.
Q&A.
Are there
in Q&A? I will display the Q&A.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. So let us see the Q&A, and then we will take the people who have raised their hand.
Yeah, sure. See, when we talk about OT cybersecurity, so far, I'll just give you the honest truth. Hiring managers or recruitment people, they still don't request the OT certification as a mandatory requirement for the job. You can do that if out of your own pocket or if organization is willing to sponsor, but it's still not mandatory, right? People, from what I understand, interacting with professionals across the world, this is a thing that keeps coming up, that this is not really mandatory for you to get the job, at least not yet, maybe in the future. Because IEC 62443 is a horizontal standard. IEC has designated as horizontal standard. It's just a matter of time that each industry sector will have its own take on 62443. Like building automation control systems, they are preparing their own. They are adopting 62443 and they are preparing a. I don't know if it's going to come out as a standard or a technical recommendation, but yes, that's going to happen. Yeah, Daniel says ML is a top class expert. I totally agree with him. There's so much that you can learn from ML, and it doesn't have to do with OT cybersecurity, but it will help you to learn the communication protocols or all the other OT stuff.
So next question is of Jayant, that are the separate trainings for the process and factory automation scenario, or is it the same for any control system?
Actually, no. It is a nice question. The reason being, IC 62443 is very generically to industrial automation and control systems. That's how IEC 62443 has defined it. But applying them to manufacturing or other industries, we still have a long way to go. Because IEC 643 is not a mandatory requirement, right? Like you can choose to do it or choose not to do it. But a lot of international manufacturing companies and process industries are going out of their way to get themselves certified. And another good thing about 62443 is recently ISA, their ISA Secure had mentioned that there is going to be a separate facility certification program for based on 62443. So if that happens, right, that's going to be really huge, and that's when 62443 is going to be in a huge demand. The reason being, we must have heard about ISO 9000, right, for organization certification, 27001 for ISMS, Information Security Management System. So this IC 643 probably will have its own facility site assessment. I don't know if it's going to come as a standard or a guideline, but probably a set of requirements. Maybe it could become a standard along the way. We don't know, but it'll take 2 or 3 years to happen. But once we get there, I think it's going to be much more interesting. So, yeah. So this is still upcoming thing. So there's a lot of happening. So there is no straightforward question, but the application varies, right? Like case to case, company to company, country to country, how they apply based on the organization culture, it's going to vary. But the foundational requirements that IEC 643 captures really well. So I think that's more than sufficient to answer your question.
Hey, John, I would like to clarify here something.
Yes,
There is no such a thing as 62443 compliance. There is no
Correct.
such a thing. You need
Correct.
to specify, are you dealing with section 4.1 and 4.2 if you are a vendor? Are you dealing with 2.4 if you are a service provider?
Right.
Are you dealing with 3.2 if you do security assessment? So just by, and why I'm saying is that because if you take a short 4 or 5 hour training, you will understand what the structure of that standard. Once you understand it and you obtain the copy of the specific section, it costs maybe $100 and your employer for sure will buy it, or $200 each section. So once you take a short training, you will be able to read the specific question. For example, I took a project not long time ago when we decided how to qualify a vendor for a big company that will comply with the 62443 requirements. So it was a specific project. I went through very, very specific paragraphs and I brought them a structure, a manageable short structure that defines them how to deal with vendors. So this is the right direction. Don't talk in general. Do not require 62443 in any of the tenders because it does not exist.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for
That's
this
true.
wonderful clarification, Daniel. So just we got some few minutes left. Let's take up next question. And we'll take the question of Sarvanan. We will respond you about your questions over email. Let's see that another question of Farooq. Please share your inputs regarding CS 410, ICS SCADA security essentials, and ICS 515 ICS visibility detection and response. Instead of all other trainings you suggested, what if we focus solely on above two trainings to gain knowledge for someone who is ITSec operations manager?
Yeah. So, Farooq, see, all these trainings, right? Like, it totally depends upon what you want to do and what is the outcome that you're looking for. These two trainings are more than sufficient for you to get started in OT cybersecurity. And if you're already in IT SecOps, I think it really makes sense, right? The only thing is the cost that we're talking about. But the reason why we are spending for the cost is to jump ahead and move ahead, right? Like, so it definitely makes sense. These two are quite renowned in terms of their course methodology, course content, and the certificate. Once you do this training, you can also sit for the exam, the relevant certification. So having them on your CV definitely sounds really great, especially in the Europe and the US. Maybe you will have the edge, but again. But that alone, it's not a guarantee. That's what I would want to say.
Okay. First, Farooq, your question got answered. So now this Girdhar, which will be easy one online course certification also help in job?
See, there is no guarantee that doing all these trainings or certification will get you any job for that matter. It can make your resume look good. Maybe when they're filtering or shortlisting resumes, maybe that can actually help. But when you're talking about job, it's about the skills that you know, or the questions that you can answer in terms of what you can do or the value that you provide to the company. So when we talk about the job, that's what you should actually focus on, right? Like, for the available opportunity or the company that you're talking about where you are attending the interview, what value you can provide in terms of that specific job role. So you need to focus on that. If there is some weakness or if there's some gaps, probably you need to try to resolve that. Of course, these trainings will help you in terms of the theory and concepts, but it's up to you to actually ensure that in a working environment, you can be very hands-on. See, risk assessment is a bit straightforward, but applying to each industry or application case to case basis, even that also varies a lot. So standards are at a very high level when we talk about risk assessment, but when you actually get down and do the risk assessment, discuss with your team, because it's not just a one person job. It needs to be, it's like a workshop that happens. So there, the theory and your practical experience in terms of handling or implementing or troubleshooting a device or all that matters, then that's where this cybersecurity concepts also apply. So that's how you need to think about trying to land a job, and not just on completing the trainings or certification.
This next question is Rangarao Kulkarni. That question about 62443, I think we can answer it later on because we need to have a session on dedicated on 62443. Then similarly, Aslam's answer we have already given. Now Maria Joseph asking question, ethical hacking from EC Council could be beneficial.
Okay, so I think you are referring to CEH. So to be honest, the whatever content that is available for CEH is already available open source, and people nowadays they do not care much about EC Council certifications like they used to 10 years back, maybe for various reasons. But I would still highly recommend you to do that if you're at a beginner level and you want to know all the basic stuff, how to use a Kali Linux, how to install the different applications or tools, and try to gain understanding. I think it definitely helps. It gives you some hands-on expertise, but it is not OT cybersecurity specific. It's more on the IT concepts and so on. But yeah, it is more mainly focused on the Linux systems and so on. In a Windows environment, that might be a bit different, but yes, it definitely helps.
Okay. Next question is related to substation. Okay, that we will take it up through email. Okay, because we are already running short of time. I'll say that we have passed on 2 minutes more than this. So guys, today we would like to end the session, and we thanks John for his efforts to share his experience with us for all cybersecurity compilation. What are the courses available? And we are very thankful that people have joined and they have time to listen to him. So if you have any query, we have already shared a feedback form. If you fill that, you can share your feedback. We will respond you within 7 days.
Yeah, so Shravan has done a CISSP, right? I need to get in touch with him and maybe learn a thing or two how to prepare for that. So Shravan, let me know.
Sure.
I'll reach out on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sure. I'm on the group.
And guys,
Open
what
for
we are
any queries.
thinking. So what we are thinking for CISSP, we are going to have a just short session from one of the renowned I'll say the faculty for the CISSP. Okay, so that whatever are your queries regarding the CISSP can be made clear. Okay, so we will have a a tech talk session soon for that. Just whoever wants to join this can scan this QR code and join us on. Just hold on.
So all the PPT content that I presented today is available in the links that I shared in the chat. So feel free to download and ask your questions in the WhatsApp group or LinkedIn group. So someone, myself, Puneet, or there's always someone who is always ready to answer and help you. So it's a community effort, it's a group effort. Thank you, Puneet. Thank you, Daniel, and all others who took the efforts and their time to spend the evening on a weekend. Thank you once again.
And we request everyone to please share your feedback so that we can improvise our format. Okay. As well as we can bring more training session if you can put that in the feedback form. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.